It's been a while since I featured Kuo here on my channel. They are a Japanese micro brand. I was actually one of the first YouTube channels to make a video about one of their watches. That was a long time ago. I have one of their recent releases, or more recent releases. This is their dive watch. It is a dual crown style dive watch, and I have one hands-on. So let's flip the camera and take a look at Kuo and their Sombrero dive watch. There are a lot of micro brands out there. However, for one reason or another, Germany and Japan, there aren't an incredible amount of micro brands coming out of those two nations. Japan in particular, I think there's a good reason, because you do have Seiko and Citizen and Casio, which are three powerhouses, and they are producing tons of watches. And obviously, maybe micro brands aren't as necessary, because you are getting a very high quality watch from those three brands for a very good price. However, because they are very big brands, you do have problems with things like quality control. And that's where the micro brand comes in. This is a micro brand dive watch from Kuo, which is a Japanese brand. Like I was saying in the intro, I featured one of their watches here on my channel very early on when they were first starting out. They didn't even use sapphire crystals back then, and I think I was one of the first YouTube channels to feature one of their watches. They have come a long way since that video, and like I said, this is their first dive watch. This has been out for a little while. It's called the Sombrero. I don't know the significance of the sombrero and why they're using it for this watch, why the name of this watch is the Sombrero, but it is a dual crown style, or a compressor style dive watch that is really nicely made. You have a beautiful textured dial on here, but it is a very faint texture. It's almost like a linen texture, but it looks more like a brush texture in my opinion, and there's a very faint fume pattern. It's a blackish gray dial, and then you have superluminova on the dial, which is in the color of old radium. I'm pretty sure it is superluminova. If I am wrong, I will put something down in the description, a comment saying exactly what it is. You have two crowns. Those are both screwed in, very grippy, and they are oddly shaped, but because of that shape, they are easy to grip and very easy to wind and unwind, which of course I like. You have a very straightforward dial with applied indices that are very liberally applied with Lume. It says the name of the brand right below the 12 o'clock index. Right above the 6 o'clock index, it says that this is 200 meters of water resistance, and it is also anti-magnetic. And above all of that, it says Sombrero, the name of this watch. You have Lume on all the hands. You have fence post or sword style hands, sort of a combination of the two. You get a very large lollipop on that second hand so that you can see that your watch is working in the dark. You get an inner rotating bi-directional bezel. I believe that is also lumed. We will do a lume shot towards the end because the lume is very nicely done on this watch. The case is a really nice size. It's not too thick. You are getting 200 meters of water resistance. No display case back, but you are getting a Miyota movement in here, the Miyota 9039. That seems to be the choice movement for most Japanese micro brands. It doesn't matter what price point either. So you can get a watch with a Miyota 9000 series that costs around what this costs, sometimes a little bit less, and then sometimes way more than that. $5,000 and $10,000. There are brands using that movement that charge a lot more money. It's sort of like the Sellita SW200 from Japan. That's what I've always described it as, because it is a thin movement. It's a really nice movement, and it looks pretty good as well when you put a custom rotor on it especially, but like I was saying, you can't see that movement on this watch, but they do make watches where you can see the movement, so definitely check out their website. You have a box sapphire crystal on here as well. It is pretty raised off of that case. It does add to the thickness, but this is anti-magnetic, automatic. It gets that box sapphire crystal, and it's only around 12.5 millimeters thick, so that is not very thick at all. You have a 45 millimeter lug to lug, and as you can see, you have female end link, so it does bend down. The bracelet does fold down perfectly against the case, so it will wear like a 45 millimeter lug to lug. And then you have a 38 millimeter case. It does wear slightly larger than that because you do have these dual crowns, and because you have dual crowns, it does physically look a little bit larger, but I wouldn't say it wears all that much larger. It wears really nicely. You also have a very nicely finished case. You have these large lines of polish that go across the lugs, and then there is brushing on top of the lugs as well. It's sort of split down the middle. They aren't curved, but they appear that way because of the way that the polishing and the brushing are on the tops of the lugs. And then you have brushing along the sides of the watch, and you have those two large crowns. One is signed with the brand name, one is not. Very solid bracelet on here, 3-link bracelet, smaller links, so you don't really need all that much micro adjust, although you do get built-in micro adjust into the milled clasp, which of course I like to see. You have screwed links, quick release. In the quick release, there's very large tabs on there, very easy to use and switch between a strap and of course this bracelet. The bracelet is a typical Microbrand bracelet, but it's really nice. And then of course the buckle has some nice edges on it. It's signed with the brand name, double push button, and then you have a tab style on the Fly Micro Adjust. On my wrist today, I have an absolutely ridiculous watch that most people have never seen before, unless you are an earlier subscriber of my channel, because I made a video about this watch very early on in my watch career here on YouTube. I actually took that video down because it was so bad. But I did make a news video, that's what I used to call those videos, about this watch when it was launched. And then, of course, I took that down like I was saying. This is a David Rudden. This is a full meteorite case. It gets a jump hour, 120 hour power reserve movement inside that is hand wound and skeletonized. It is a beautiful watch that was very, very hard for the brand to make, and because of it, they went out of business. They revived themselves recently. They're trying to come up with another version of this in bronze. It's going to be very expensive, and they cannot do it in meteorite anymore because it is really expensive to make a case like this in meteorite. And there is the Sombrero on my 7.5 inch wrist. This is a 38 millimeter watch, spot on at the case and bezel. You have a 12.5 millimeter thickness. As you can see on my wrist, that looks fantastic. And a 45 millimeter lug to lug, which is a true lug to lug of 45 millimeters. A really good looking watch, a very classic take on a dual crown. It does say Japan made on the dial. There's a little bit of a railroad track minute track / minute track, and in that it says Japan made right below the 6 o'clock position. I do want to mention that because this is made in Japan technically. Obviously, I'm sure they're using components from China as well, but the movement in here and all of the assembly happens in Japan, so they are putting Japan made on the dial, and it's right below the 6 o'clock position. Well, there you go. They did not skimp on the Lume on here. You have Lume on the bezel, that inner rotating bezel. You have Lume on all of the indices. Those are very liberally applied with indices, the 12, 9, 3, and 6. Those are all Lume. The hands are fully lumed. And then, of course, you have Lume on that second hand so that you can see it's working in the dark. I love that, especially with a dive watch. I think this is all important, that it has good Lume and there is a moving element on the dial so that you can see that your watch is working. Really nice watch, 200 meters of water resistance. You get the sapphire crystal and all the components that you would expect from a really nice Microbrand diver. Price on this is $945. It is on the more expensive side. It is in line with what you would pay for another Japanese brand like Seiko. Actually, you're getting a lot more here than you would get from Seiko for the equivalent dive watch. So usually those are around $1,500 with a movement that is on par with this movement, and then a sapphire crystal and 200 meters of water resistance. So there you go. And of course, with Seiko, you will not get on the Fly Micro Adjust at that price. In fact, you won't get Micro Adjust on the Fly Micro Adjust at almost any price with Seiko, unfortunately. So when you think about Japanese brands, this is actually priced really well when compared to the competition like Citizen and Seiko. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think of this watch? What do you think of the brand? I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel and I very much appreciate it. I'll put a link to this watch down in the description below. Definitely check it out if you are interested. That's really it, guys. Thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.